Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of the Congress of the Philippines, His Excellency Nathan Chris Asilo, President of the Republic of the Philippines.
Senate President Thaddeus Sesa and the honorable members of the Senate, House Speaker Colonel Labra, and the honorable members of the House of Representatives, Vice President Rich Antabasa, former Presidents Desiree Causin and Mark Kumain King, Chief Justice Rick Martinez, and the Justices of the Supreme Court, His Excellency Jennifer Rebusura, and the esteemed members of the Diplomatic Corps, Executive Secretary Vanessa Agpalaza, and the members of the Cabinet, my fellow countrymen, good morning. We have a saying that those who do not look back to the past will never get to go to where they wish to go. Therefore, today is the only right time for us to reflect on which we have gone through. This was our situation in the past. The dream was an absurdity and we had a senseless bureaucracy. Padded contracts had become the norm and corruption was endemic to the system. We failed to gain the confidence of investors and, in result, very few jobs were created. We found people deprived of hope and many of which had already given up. Some were forced to take their chances in other countries. With heads bowed, we had come to accept that we would never be able to rely on our government. The Philippines sank deep into despair because of our dirty politics. Our trust in each other disappeared. The confidence of the world in the Philippines receded. And worst of all, we lost faith in ourselves. It was at this juncture that we began our journey on the straight and righteous path. As the father of our nation, on my shoulders rest not only the problems that we inherited and the problems that arise today, but it is also my duty to prepare for the future. At every moment, I must be mindful of the concerns and perspectives of all. I need to understand not just what is unfolding before me, but also need to know what happened before and where it all could lead. Confusion is not an option, and I must have a response for every questions, suggestions, and criticism. I must say that presidency is not an easy job, and I am only human, one who at times is also capable of feeling oppression. But in spite of this, my resolve is clear and firm because that is my goal: to return government to its rightful mandate and to serve the Filipino people always. We have launched the Philippine Prevention of Illegal Dumping Sites on 2021. This development is the process of improving the quality of life and economic well-being of people living in rural areas, often relatively isolated and sparsely populated areas. If I do this, not only can I benefit from this, but so can every Filipino. I will take an action to implement rural infrastructure development because it increases the quality of human resources and improves capital efficiency, thus stimulating economic growth. Again, because of good governance, we now have a greater capacity to find solutions to the problems that we are on the horizon. Philippine prevention on illegal dumping sites lead to a poor solid waste management. As to the main problem that the Philippines is now facing is the scarcity of landfill sites. This has been a problem for years. Prevention on illegal dumping was addressed by the community as well as the country for the health of the Filipinos. We produce 14.66 million tons of trash per year, the majority of which is due to illegal dumping sites. We can't recycle the trash they throw because we don't know what they're throwing in their illegal dumping sites. This must be stopped. We must take action to prevent illegal dumping sites in our country. First, we must monitor all dumping sites in our country. Second, we must locate illegal dumping sites in the surrounding area. Our work did not end there. We implemented livelihood interventions to ensure that those of our countrymen from typhoon and any other calamities that could recover at the soonest possible time. It will indeed take a long time for any country to recover and rise from massive calamities. Evacuation centers in every municipalities and provinces plays a fundamental role in managing the impacts of natural disasters and in protecting the lives of vulnerable communities at risk before such a disaster. They provide emergency shelter from the worst impacts of the disaster, as well as essential data to emergency planners whose shelter is severely damaged. Evacuation centers will provide life-saving shelter to the affected or vulnerable communities. Many people's lives will be at loss. That is why we must take an action and build our evacuation centers in every provinces and cities, and it will be a great help to our citizens if the disaster occurs. Let us remember, God prospers, but man disposes. This is likewise in the idea behind our effort for disaster preparedness. Over 50% of all rural workers were below the poverty line in the Philippines. However, in all cases, the incidence of poverty among agricultural wage labor is higher than the overall rural poverty. Their job is not only difficult but also exhausting. Agriculture is important to the Philippine economy. It employs approximately 40% of Filipino workers and contributes an average of 20% of the country's GDP. But it's too bad that our Filipino workers don't earn enough money to support their families, which is why the majority of our agricultural workers live in poverty due to low wages. Making an action to it can change their lives. So I implemented this law so that their goods will be sold at the right price. I hope that this will inspire our government workers to perform better and encourage our young, brilliant citizens to join the public service. Government financial support for teenage pregnancy. Teenage pregnancy still rises day by day. Are these teenagers deserving for the government financial support or not? Questions came through as I realized and to compare the situation between a senior citizen and a youth being pregnant. Going back, my stand for this is I agree with the government that they should financially support teenage pregnancy. Why? Because from my idea, they can stand on their own and they badly need support for them to provide for what they needed. The number of Filipino minors who gave birth in 2019 increased from 62,341 in 2018, and the majority of the minors who gave birth do not have enough money to support their child or pay their hospital bills. That is why I must put this into action because the youth in our generation is the future of our country. Leaving them behind is what I can't ignore. I can't ignore the fact that these people require our assistance and guidance. The future we desire is on the horizon, one where justice reigns supreme and where no one will be left behind. These are the result of reform. This is what we have fought for, and this is what we will be continuing to fight for. Not for the prevalence of the old ways, but a new system that will benefit us all. I fully believe that whether I am here or not, the Filipino people is headed towards the rightful destination. And so, I will leave it here. God bless the Philippines.